Hey there, happy day 1145 of What's You Up To Now. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, documenting my journey as I transition from the brick and mortar corporate world of business to the online world of business. Naturally, I've been around for a very long time, and that means I've had experiences, some good, some bad, some ugly, and as I've grown and responded and experienced different things, probably just like you, before I learned some things that I'm learning now, I experienced things that I would say, or I had feelings about certain experiences that I can easily and effortlessly say, and I never want to feel that way again. I never want to experience that again. Yet, lo and behold, a few years later, because I forgot about it, what would happen? Something really similar would show up in my life, and I would find myself in the throes during the experience. I would find myself living through a very similar situation, and I'd get that sense of deja vu. Have you ever gotten that sense of deja vu when you think something's impossible and all of a sudden you find out that it's absolutely positively possible for you to experience it again because you're going through it? When you're going through it, it's really, really hard to deal with it because you're in the chaos, you're in the drama, you're in the mix. But afterwards, you can look back and you can say, I remember an instant when I was going through this that I realized I was repeating a loop, a pattern. I'd done this before. And that easily gives us the power to do something about it. Now, I'm in a training program right now, and I'll talk about what I'm doing today with respect to online businesses. But in this, it's a year-long, 12-month coaching program. And I haven't been in one for a while. I've always been doing them, been leading them, but not actually participating in someone else's it's probably been 3 or 4 years now since I've had a coach. And this one, it's obviously time this year as part of my personal development, personal growth, and moving toward what it is that I want into my life to show up in my life, to really, really consistently show up in my life. I do an annual challenge, and this year's annual challenge is to do one thing every day that centers you. And that led me to, because whenever we're focusing on something and we're going in a direction we want to go, my direction is I want to be more centered. I want to be more myself. I want to show up in the world as only I uniquely can. Well, how do I do more of that? And I start asking myself those questions. And then how do I want to feel? And how do I want to make sure I never feel again? Well, one of the things I learned over the last couple of days was the power of the word and. Now, and is a great connector, right? And is this and that, meaning we're going to do this and that and this and that and this and that. We're going to put all these things together. Think of making a recipe. Whenever we're cooking or making a recipe, we need to think, and all of those ingredients need to go in to creating the recipe we're trying to make. If we're making a cake or cookies, I love to make different kinds of desserts and cookies, or at least I used to. I don't cook so much anymore, or bake so much anymore, but I used to love cooking and baking. And so everything was a recipe. If you leave out one of the ingredients, a lot of times the recipe will fail because we need all of them. We need this and that and the vanilla and the salt and the flour and the pepper and the baking powder or baking soda, the eggs, the flavoring. I think I said vanilla, but maybe we're going to have some kind of nuts or fruit or other spices or seasonings or things into that. But we need all of them to make the recipe a success. We need and. Now, many of us, when we are thinking about what and defining what success is to us, we use the and. And we create this thing in our definition of success so that it's impossible. And we almost never let ourselves experience or feel successful because we've got 10 or 20 or 30 things all linked together with the word and before we allow ourselves to feel successful. And part of this was learning how to feel successful every day now by switching out, and we'll talk about this maybe tomorrow, and using a different word. If you want to know what that word is, pop in tomorrow and we'll talk about that. I'm going to make myself a note right now to talk about that tomorrow so that I don't forget. But the cool thing about the word and is we can use it to never feel an emotion or a feeling that we don't want to feel ever again. So think about a feeling you might be feeling right now, and you're feeling it often, and you're like, man, that just snuck in the last couple of years or during COVID or something. I don't want to feel that way. Maybe it's bored. Maybe it's, I'll use frustrated because that was mine. In corporate America, I felt, and not in corporate America so much, a little there, but in my own businesses, I felt frustrated a lot. And I had to use this little strategy, this realization, this epiphany to actually change the way I thought and defined frustration so that I wouldn't feel it anymore. There's things like depression, frustration, anger, resentment that we might feel all the time. We might feel them every single day. Now, are those feelings, are those going to move me in the direction I want to go, or are they going to keep me stuck? They tend to keep me stuck. When I was feeling frustrated all the time, I was stuck. I was stuck in the same spot because until I stopped feeling frustrated and I replaced it with feeling empowered, excited, open to the possibilities, enthusiastic, anything, I was stuck right there. And I would just keep feeling frustrated, and I would go in this endless loop of frustration. Something would happen I didn't expect, I'd get frustrated. Something would take longer than I expected, I'd feel frustrated. And what I discovered by asking myself questions about, well, what pattern am I running? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What does it take to get me frustrated? I realized the only thing it took for me to feel frustrated about anything, not only at work, but in any area or aspect of my life, was to not have my personal expectations of the moment met. So if anyone or anything was different than I expected it to be, I would go immediately into frustration. Oh my God, no wonder I was frustrated so often, because it was so easy for me to get frustrated because anything could make me frustrated. Now, if I want to make it so that I never feel a negative feeling as strongly again, I can redefine what frustration is for me. And that's exactly what I did. I created an entire list of about 5 or 6 or 10 things that weren't going to happen no matter what. And I connected them with ands, and I had to feel all of those things or experience all of those things in the moment, or I couldn't feel frustrated. I defined frustration as excuse me, I got a cloggy throat. I'm not sure coffee's going to clear it. But I define frustration, I don't remember now because it's probably been, maybe close to 10 years since I had to do this to myself. Maybe not 10, maybe 7 or 8 years since I had to change my definition of frustration. And I guess it's probably been going on 9 or 10. And I thought of things like, in order for me to feel frustrated, absolutely positively, everything in this moment has to be going wrong or be negative or not as I want it to be or expected, or and is everything in every area and aspect of your life ever all simultaneously totally screwed up and wrong? I mean, everything you could possibly think of. Well, I was breathing, so everything wasn't wrong, right? If I could breathe, if I was living, if I was alive, that meant that everything wasn't wrong. Therefore, I couldn't ever I couldn't ever feel that way, feel frustrated, because all those things had to be in place. Absolutely everything in the moment had to be wrong, negative, not as I expected it to be. And I kept the not as I expected it to be because I already had that link to that definition in my mind. So I didn't want to totally throw that out, but I wanted to add a whole lot to it to make it impossible. Then, to really seal the deal, I would say, and I've never, and then I wanted to take it out of the now, so I added a time frame. So, and nothing could have been going right in my business for the past 6 months. Absolutely nothing could be going right in my business. Now, was that true? No, there's never a time in my business where absolutely everything was going wrong, ever. Would a little thing go wrong here, a little thing go wrong there? Would a vendor, deliver the wrong thing? I mean, little things, but those things used to tip me over and frustrate me, because I'd be like, how hard is it to fill our order? We don't order that much. It's pretty simple. How hard is it? Not very hard. And I would get frustrated, and I'd have to call the vendor, say, where's our stuff? We need our stuff, because we did just-in-time resource management, and we needed this stuff when we ordered this stuff. We didn't not need this stuff. If we did not need it, we didn't order it. That was some of our just-in-time inventory system. So I did that. It was before I even knew what I was doing. It was interesting that he brought this up and taught us how to do this in the coaching program. He's like, just string a bunch of ands together to a feeling you don't want to feel, and all of a sudden it's impossible for you to feel that. Well, instead of taking our feelings we want to feel, like success and love and health and wisdom and excitement, and putting a bunch of ands on those before we can feel them, let's turn that around and do it on our negative feelings. So I challenge you today to pick a negative feeling, maybe that, especially one that's come up or you've noticed over the last year or so with COVID, is, depression, laziness. I had to do laziness for myself because I was, finding some ways to behave in lazy ways. So I had to change my definition of laziness. What's lazy to me? And so you do that by saying, okay, an impossible way for me to define laziness, and another impossible way for me to define laziness, and another impossible way for me to define laziness, and another impossible way for me to define laziness. And it's just what comes up for you. But the more you string impossible things together, it makes the feeling that you're trying to achieve impossible to obtain. My reaction to frustration now, my feeling frustrated, I used to feel frustrated every freaking day, every single day. And I mean, multiple times a day, I felt frustrated with my old definition. But by changing my definition, which we absolutely positively have the power to do, because what are our definitions? They're just something we make up in our head to describe things, right? This is a black magnifying glass. Who said this is black? Well, somebody a long time ago said this is black, and we all agreed that we would call this black, therefore it's black. Well, are all magnifying glasses black then? No, absolutely not. This one just happens to be black because we want to have some commonality in our language and agreement. But we can define it any way we want. I could call this is, most people would call this a magnifying glass. I could call this my little lifesaver, because without these, I couldn't really do the things that I'm capable of doing, because it's a tool that I need. So I might call this a little lifesaver, and people would be like, I could say, well, where's my little lifesaver? And people would be like, I don't even know what that is. And I would say, well, you would call it a magnifying glass. But I get to define that. I get to decide what that means to me. Now, I attach a lot more significance to a magnifying glass than most people do. Why? Because it's an essential tool to me. Is a magnifying glass essential to most people? Probably not. Probably not. So, and the power of the word and is a great connecting word, but we want to be careful when we're anding ourselves. We want to use it to get rid of things that we don't want, and we don't want to use it. We want to use it to connect things that are and should and do belong connected together. We don't want to use it to connect things that are not related. Guess what? As humans, we connect a lot of stuff that's unrelated simply by saying and. This and that. I want to lose weight and be a billionaire and be a best-selling author of all time and, I don't know, think of whatever you could want. And if I string those things all together and say, that is how I define success, and we don't usually do it out loud, right? It's important to write things down, because I would not realize that I had all those different and things in my definition of success if I didn't sit down and think about it for a couple of minutes and say, oh my gosh, what's my definition of success? Ask myself a question. Well, it's this and this and this and this and this, and then I will be successful. Then I will be happy. Then I will be healthy. Then I will be whatever it is that we want. And we realize that we have made it impossible for us to actually experience that feeling by stringing all of these I guess, requirements onto our definition of a very simple word. And since we each get to define what everything means to us, it's important that we think about that every once in a while. So that's enough for my tirade today. We've already talked about doing one thing every day that centers you from this little journal book. And today we talked about enthusiasm and how important it is to be enthusiastic or excited about something. We, for the most part, are humans, don't go out of our way to change or do anything differently unless we're excited about it, curious about it, enthusiastic about it, have some sort of positive expectations or feeling about it. We don't do it. Would I do a 365-day challenge if I wasn't enthusiastic about it? If I didn't know and didn't believe, I don't even have to know with certainty, if I didn't believe that I was going to benefit by doing it? Absolutely not. I wouldn't. I wouldn't get up every day and then look in a little book and say, okay, nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. What does that mean to me? What am I enthusiastic about today? Would I do that if I weren't wanting to get the result that I know that a little bit of focus in the direction I want to go every single day will guarantee that at the end of 2021, I am more centered. I will understand myself better. I will know what makes me tick better than January 1st, 2021. I absolutely positively know with certainty that that will happen. And then we could get into a whole series of, well, how do I know? But that's a discussion for another day. Today's idiom for supersize your business was measure twice, cut once. And speaking of enthusiasm, I actually put my granddaughter to sleep talking about measuring twice and cutting once, which tells me that I wasn't very energized and enthusiastic at her feeding this morning. I got up and helped feed her this morning. She was a little grumpy last night. I stayed up late with her last night too, which was really this morning. Thus, me being so late doing my videos today. Normally I hop up first thing in the morning. Early in the morning, I do my live videos because that's what works for me. I would never tell anyone, you got to get up and you got to do live videos and you got to get up and do them in the morning. No, you have to do what works for you. What works for me is creating content and doing my videos first thing in the morning. Why? Lots of reasons. Number one, I commit to myself and I keep my word to myself that I'm going to create some content every day and I'm going to get it done. If I don't do it first thing in the morning, and there are days that I don't, I think last Saturday I had a sleepover with my granddaughter at my sister's house, and so I don't think I did my videos till about 9 o'clock at night. And I reinforced to me, I'm not a night person. I am not an evening energized person. That's another reason I get up and I do my videos first thing in the morning, because that's what works for me. So today was measure twice, cut once, which is something I'm very familiar with. The ex-husband and I built our house, and we were the general contractors for that. So we got firsthand knowledge of the importance of not wasting resources by measuring twice and cutting once. And it's not just a carpentry term. It applies to, everything we do. It applies to the habits we decide to keep in our lives, or the things that we decide to do every day. The things that are important to us, we do every day, and we usually measure them out, right? We keep track of them. Speaking of babies, my daughter had as a month-old little girl, and it's their first baby, and so they're using an app, and now there's apps for everything nowadays, right? So anything you want to measure, you can probably find an app for that, or you can create your own. Creating your own is pretty easy as well, or you can make a spreadsheet or whatever. But the things that are important to us, we want to measure and keep track of. So they're keeping track of her eating. She's breastfeeding and bottle fed, but breast milk. They're keeping track of how much she eats. In the beginning, she'd eat like 30 milliliters. Well, now she's up to like 120 milliliters, or 90 and 80 at a time, and then she wants more. And so they're using that to help them know how many resources they need to give her. And by measuring it and tracking it and looking at it, they can watch her progression and watch her grow. Same with diaper changes and diapers, which is really another whole topic in and of itself. I forgot about baby diapers. It's only been a few years. I watched my other granddaughter. She's going to be 6 in May, but I watched her for the first couple of years. And then during COVID as well, before she started kindergarten, I got to hang out with her, which was awesome. But it's the importance of, before you put something in stone, before you create something or cut something off, or change it in a way that you can't put it back to normal and waste that resource, you want to make sure you've got the right measurement that you're using to measure results, to measure a piece of wood if you're going to cut it, whatever it might be. Fabrics, if you've ever sewn or done anything like that. Granddaughters like to do a lot of crafty things, and my granddaughter is no different. And whenever we're making Barbie clothes and things, we measure twice and before we cut, because once we cut that fabric, we normally don't have a lot of extra fabric. We make doll clothes out of fun things like unmated socks. Anybody got unmated socks in their house? We like to make Barbie clothes out of those. Did that when I was a little girl, and it's fun to teach her how to do that, because I don't know about you, but my house, my family always seems to have a bag full of unmated socks. I swear the dryer eats one periodically just at random to frustrate us. But I don't get frustrated anymore, so if I did, it might be frustrating, but I just don't anymore. You can always just go get more socks. So that's what I'm working on a 12-month coaching program that I'm a part of, and some other things. Get Up and Go Challenge. I have not thought about it yet this month in terms of what the April's is going to look like, but in April, I'm going to do another 30-day free Get Up and Go Challenge. And what is that about? It's about moving forward and having a process that you can install in your subconscious to move forward no matter what's going on around you and in your life. Started it last year about this time with respect to COVID. And I did, I think, a 10-day one, and I realized, hey, 10 days isn't going to be enough. It isn't enough to really think about this framework, and I use the SOAP framework to get this and practice it a couple times in different areas of your life, and then install it in your subconscious. So it's a tool that you always have at the ready, and it plays out automatically in your life. Frameworks, once we make them our own, they're automatic and they make our life so much simpler and so much easier. So that'll be April 1st through the 31st. They usually go 30 plus days. So although I'm traveling, I wanted to get that done in April before I'm the 29th I'm leaving, and then I'm gone through mid-May, and I want to make sure that I can meet my commitment to that, do it, continue to move and grow personally, as well as helping other people do that and move forward. So that's it. That's all I've got today. If I can help you in any way, hit me up in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow.